Tony Speaks, and this is my lovely wife, Kim. We are the founders and co-creators of the lifestyle brand and podcast, Becoming Disciplined. Every week we meet, learn from, and share best practices with highly disciplined men and women from a variety of fields and endeavors. Follow us on our journey. McArthur Glaze shares an array of life experiences, both positive and negative ones alike, to cultivate a life that speaks to the heart of a generation in terms that come effectively from a veteran. McArthur's life has mirrored many of the lives of youth he serves in his diverse professional career. McArthur is a social entrepreneur, speaker, and trainer that has a passion to correct the generational ills and challenges that hinder today's youth. A native of South Bay, Florida, he grew up without either biological parent. He rebelled against traditional education systems as a teen. He experimented with drugs and had brushes with law enforcement. Transformed as a young adult, he began giving messages of hope and purpose to young people entrapped in a negative circumstance like he had been. His determination, commitment, and belief in his ability to go beyond being labeled a failure to creating a successful logistics company, nonprofit organization, and now a professional speaking platform with other brands to come, exhibits his don't quit character. McArthur's sensitivity and understanding of the plight of children journeying in the wrong direction is real. This allows him to speak directly into their situations with clarity and thought-provoking wisdom, creating a call to consciousness. But most importantly, McArthur L. Glaze is becoming disciplined. Today on Becoming Disciplined, we interview Mr. McArthur L. Glaze. McArthur, welcome to Becoming Disciplined. We are so honored to have you.
Oh, man, thanks for having me. I'm very honored and I'm humbled to be here.
Well, McArthur, before you educate us and share your story so far, where you at right now, I think it's good for my audience to be aware of your context, the beginning of your story. Where did you grow up?
Man, I grew up in a city called the Muck, man, Belgrade, Florida, man, by way of South Bay and Pahokee. Okay. It's a small migrant town, man, down in western Palm Beach County. We're known for sugarcane and football players. All right. And also we're known for producing real tough people, man. So if your audience don't know what Palm Beach County is, it's about 45 to 50 minutes north of Miami.
Okay.
South Florida.
Okay, that's good. I've spent most of my time in the Panhandle in Florida. I spent a whole lot of time in Pensacola, but I went down that way at least once. But Now, what was your childhood like? You know, just to give people a context, what was McArthur Glaze like as a young child?
Man, as a child, man, my childhood, man, it was very complex. It was very complex. My mother and my father was both heroin addicts. They were both heroin addicts, and I guess this was like in the 60s, and by the time I came on the scene in the early 70s, mid 70s, the boom of the crack era, my parents also began to experiment with crack cocaine. So you have the crack cocaine thing going on, you have the heroin going on, being shot in their veins, you have prostitution going on real heavy, you have the marijuana smoking going on, then you have the drinking. So my mom, man, my daddy was somewhat of a pimp, but he had a heroin problem, drug problem as well. And my mom, man, lived in Belgrade, Florida, and she lived in these small apartments, man, what they would call Essie Mae. Essie Mae was named after the lady, Miss Essie Mae. She was a great lady, man. Me and her grandson are really good friends. And she had a restaurant at the bottom of this particular apartment building. So it was like rooming houses. And the rooms were very small. The bathroom was actually in the hallway. The rooms were so small that if you threw a rock in, everybody would come out with a knock. Right. But that's just how Belgrade was, how it was built. A lot of the apartments was built. So nevertheless, man, my mom gets pregnant with me. She continues to use heroin and cocaine the whole 9 months of the pregnancy. So now I'm born. My mom is living in this little small rooming house. So my dad is long gone by this time. He's gone on with his life. She meets this other guy that lived adjacent to Belle Glade in a town called South Bay, Florida. And she began to date this guy. And I think I was about 6 to 9 months old from the story. It was about 6 to 9 months, probably closer to 9 months old, that my mom got so high, her and her boyfriend, they got so high that they forgot all about me. And they left me in this small apartment building for about 3 to 4 days. So on the third or the fourth day, the lady that, well, let me back up. The brother that my mom was dating, his sister came over looking for him. He was fresh out of the military, but he had a drug problem. So she came over looking for her brother. She comes up the stairs. She knocks on the door of the little rooming house. There's no answer. So she goes next door to the next room and knocks on that door and say, have you seen such and such? I won't say my real mom's name, but have you seen such and such and my brother? And the neighbor said, no, we haven't seen them. They've been gone probably about 3 to 4 days. And she said, well, did you see a little baby that, don't the lady have a baby? They said, we haven't seen the baby either. So she turned and walked away and said, well, okay, well, tell them, such and such came by, looking for my brother. And, but instinctively, as she got ready to go back down the stairs, she came back to the door. She grabbed the doorknob to the door. It was unlocked. Wow. The door was unlocked. Wow. She opened the door out of curiosity. Nobody's answering. What's going on? And she peeps inside and she sees me inside. Oh. And I was to the point of death. She grabs me up. She runs downstairs in the waiting car with her sister, her other sister. They take me over to South Bay to their grandmother. They said when I got to South Bay, the feces on my rear end was so hard because I had been there for so long, 3 to 4 days. And they said one more day, they think I probably would have died from dehydration or starvation or what have you. So now I'm in this family. The judge gave this lady a temporary stay, and this lady's name is Geraldine Jones. She is my mother. I love her. She's passed on over 13 years ago, but she raised me. And she got to stay. The judge said, well, we'll let you keep him for a little while until we find his mother. Never could find my mother. Somewhere strung out on drugs. No big deal. I don't share this to hurt my mom or degrade my mom. This is just a story. That's just the struggle that my mom had at the time. We have our own struggles. It may not be drugs, but all of us have struggles. So the judge said, well, I'm going to give you a permanent stay if you'll keep him. She said, yes, I will keep him as my own. So new social security numbers, everything. Raised me up. But as I'm coming up in this family, when they was telling me the story, they said I used to run my head and I would get by a wall and bang my head into the wall. And they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. So they tried to seek out, psychologists or whatever, trying to figure out what's wrong with this 1-year-old baby. Because by this time I'm a year old. And come to find out that I was going through withdrawals from the heroin because my mom, like I said, she shot the heroin the whole 9 months of the pregnancy. So the umbilical cord is tied to me. So my body, I'm born filled with heroin. I'm born filled with cocaine. And some would say, well, it was 9 months, but they continued to use the heroin and the cocaine the whole time I'm crawling around in this small apartment. The cocaine use is going on. The prostitution is going on. All of this stuff is going on right in this small rooming house while I'm there. So it caused me to have different emotional and psychological issues as I'm growing up in this family. So I'm a typical kid. I don't know this is not my family. So by the time I'm 10, maybe about 10 years old, I'm finding out that this is not my family. Kids can be cruel. You're not a part of this family. You're adopted anyway. Kiki. You start to hear those things. So on top of that, you can see I'm a very dark young man. So from home to school, I'm being called dark. I'm being called ugly. I'm being called stupid. I'm being called crazy because I'm reacting to the criticism, the negative criticism that's being spoken in my life. So people see the reaction. It's almost like when you're in the classroom, the kid hit a kid, but the teacher see the kid that returned the lick. You see what I'm saying? So everybody's seeing the reaction. You see, they're seeing the what, but they don't see the why. So they try to put me in these emotional EH classes, stand for emotional handicap. But I used to ride the short bus, with the wheelchair on the side. So they put me in these little, situations. So, around about 10, I got so angry one day because, man, I was just frustrated, just very frustrated, just angry, wondering why. Where's my mother? Where's my father? Why am I being treated this way? Why is everybody calling me these names? And we had a big tree in the front yard, big old oak tree, and we had a rope in the tree. And at the bottom of the rope, it was literally shaped in the form of a noose. We had them tied like a little circle. And back in this time, our parents used to have, or the older people used to have foot tubs. And they used to wash the clothes in the foot tub. They'll fill it with water, soap, and they'll just wash it like that. So I was so upset, man. I grabbed the foot tub. I ran out there, stood up on the tub. I put the noose on my neck. And I kicked the foot tub from under me. And I was hanging on that rope. And as the life was leaving out of my body, man, the lady that raised me, Geraldine Jones, her brother, Tracy Dixon, came and he snatched me off the rope. And as he was snatching me up, man, I was gone. I was going out. And then I went, when he got it off my neck, shaking me, what's wrong with you and all that. And I was crying and screaming and yelling. But I really didn't want to die, though. It was my cry to tell people that something is going on with me. It was my cry for help. It was the only way I knew how to express myself because there's no man in my life because my mother, Geraldine Jones, who became my mother, she didn't have a man at this time. So I don't have a male figure to really teach me that it's okay that a young male can express himself this way, especially a young black male, because when we grew up, if you fell off the tricycle or the bicycle or you scarred yourself up in the road and you ran in the house, mama say, suck it up, little boy's not supposed to cry. And I heard that all my life. So you can't cry, so you learn how to hold those emotions in. So you don't know how to express yourself because when you express yourself, you're considered a punk. You're considered soft. You're considered weak. So now you're detached emotionally now. So you're growing up this way. So that followed me through middle school. It followed me through elementary school, middle school, and high school. So the stigma is on my back, that he's crazy. He's dumb. Then they start calling me dumb and wild. And I acted that way. And birds of a feather flock together. So all the guys that I hung with, none of us had fathers. All of us was dysfunctional. We came up in these dysfunctional situations. So that's why I say my childhood was very challenging. From juvenile homes to you name it, it was very challenging. Because my mom, she did the best she could. She found a kid. She didn't have a child of her own. So she did the best she could with raising me. She gave me the best loving home she could. She loved me as her own. And to me, she is my mom. Even though I had a biological mom that passed on a little bit after her, maybe about 9 years ago. I think 9 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, my biological mom ended up passing. But we had built somewhat of a relationship, and I love my biological mom. I want to put that out there. I love my biological mom. And like I said earlier, I understand now in retrospect that she just had a problem. And the way she dealt with her problem was through drugs, and the way she took care of herself at that time was through prostitution. I get it. No degrade here. I love my mom. That was her story. That was her situation. So my childhood was very challenging. I know I went around Mississippi and back, but it was very challenging, man. A lot of the young people that I grew up with, most of them have passed on now. They died young. I don't think most of them didn't live to see 21, 22. They died from probably like 17 to 21, 22. They was all getting killed. I think it's maybe 5 of us, maybe that's still living from that whole crew that I hung with. In South Bay, we used to call ourselves the B-boys. It was the big B-boys. You had like Stanley and Bunt and all those brothers. We was the little B-boys. And out of the younger B-boys, maybe about 5 of us still living. We kind of scattered. One is a pastor. I think one has life in prison. Another one just got out of prison. Another one lives in Tampa, and I think it may be one more out there somewhere. Nay, I just can't think right now. But so very challenging childhood, man. Very challenging. Say the least.
Now, normally I try to always I try to make this a secular, like a secular platform. But today, I feel led to just say it like I'm gonna say it like I'm gonna say it.
Right, right.
Who did God send in the midst of all of that painful beginning? If you could look from heaven, who was the person? And of course, He sent your mom,
Right,
your adopted mom. But
right.
then after your adopted mom, who was the man that He sent to begin to change the story?
Actually, it wasn't a man.
Oh, it wasn't. Okay.
Actually, it was a lady by the name of Frediva Nelson. I would never forget her, man. She's passed on now. But when I was in the center, I think I was about 14. I think I was about 14 years old, and I was real angry at this time. I'm in the center. I'm very angry. Still no father in my life. Still don't know where my real mom is. So I'm very angry. And this lady was a volunteer, and I had gotten a lot of trouble fighting all kinds of stuff. So they put me in confinement. And she came there one night and she said, "Give me the worst kid in here." And they said, "Well, that's McArthur Glaze." She came down to the cell, and she had been doing it for so long, so she had somewhat of authority. She came to that cell, and she opened the door. Had the officers to open the door. She came in, and she said, "I'm gonna talk to you." And they let her take me out of confinement, holding my hand, and walk me around the facility while she talked to me. And I never forget her words, man. She grabbed my hand and she started to rub on my skin. She said, "Your skin is so beautiful." She said, "You have skin like velvet." She said, "You're gonna be Dr. Glaze one day." She said, "You're gonna do some great things in your life." And for the first time in my life, I heard somebody speak life into me. Those was the first positive words I had ever heard in my life. Because I come from a situation where I was always talked about ugly, dumb, stupid, crazy, psycho, all of that stuff, all these crazy words. And then you begin to accept that. So my view of me was through the eyes of those negative people. That's how I saw myself. So to hear this lady give me a different perspective and a different view of what she saw, and I began to believe it.
Wow.
And she planted a seed in me that I never it sprouted later in life. It didn't sprout then. I still lived some years of just wild, crazy, doing all kinds of things. But at the right time, that seed sprouted in my life. And that's when I was 14, 15 years old, man. And she still has her words still have a great impact on my life now. Her words live in me. So the McArthur Glaze that you see and the world see now is a result of Miss Frediva Nelson. So you see my face, you hear my voice, but behind this voice and behind this face is Miss Frediva Nelson from Riviera Beach, Florida. That's who you see.
That's good. That's good. Pay honor where honor is due. Now,
right.
She planted the seed. Who was the person, or when did you finally leave the streets? Like when did you finally say, "Hey, I'm done with it"?
Well, I left when I was 28. I got married to my beautiful wife, Kenya. We've been married 18 years now. And it was to a point where I was just tired, man. My cousin, my right-hand man, my cousin had just got indicted by the feds a few years prior. And then my best friend, I won't call no names, but my best friend, he was in prison. And so I was, I really was alone, man. I was out there in the street by myself. I should have been in the feds, but I wasn't. By the grace of God, the indictment just went over me, And so I met my wife, and when I met my wife, Kenya, I was just tired, man. It was more tired. There was not, I can't say it was a person, it was more just me, They say there's a wooing of the Holy Spirit where it's a point in your life where God begins to woo you by the Spirit. And I believe that's what it was. And so I left, got married to my wife. I had 2 boys at the time before my wife. I had already had 2 boys. So, looking at my boys, not wanting to be a deadbeat dad in their lives, not wanting to be incarcerated or dead somewhere. And they had to grow up like me. And then I had my daughter, Asia. And that was just the straw for me. And so I got into church. I think I was in church maybe a year and a half. And coming from the street life, man, I'm having a lot of money. It caught up with me because now I'm working a job and the job just wasn't cutting it. So after about a year and a half, I went back into school and I lived there for another 7 years and was a part of a second indictment with another one of my partners out of Rivera. Was with him when the feds grabbed him. By the grace of God, same thing. He kept it, what the streets would say 100. He didn't tell on me. Wow. And he kept it 100. That's my boy. So they never touched me. I buy a semi truck and started the trucking business. And I had a contract in Florida, and the contract went out of business. Let me say the contract didn't go out of business. I'm sorry. The people I had the contract with, I was a third party. They lost the contract. Mm. And by this time, my oldest son was living in Grand Prairie, Texas with his mom, because I raised him. And for that 1 year, I let him move up here with his mom. He wanted to stay with his mom. I said, okay, I'll let you go up there, for this. We'll try it. So when they lost the contract, they was like, well, one of the places we have is in Fort Worth, Texas. I said, Fort Worth, Texas. So I Googled it and seen it was like 15 minutes down the street from my son. Right, so I told my wife, I said, I'm just going to take the truck up there and I'm going to try it because I didn't want to go back to that life. I was getting tired of the life. Sure. But I was straddling the fence a little bit. So I come to Texas and I get a hotel room. And so I'm living in this hotel. At this time, my marriage was in shambles at the time as well because of the way I was living. So God got me up here isolated. For 3 months, I was in that hotel by myself. And one night I was just laying in the bed. And when I tell you the Spirit of God just came all over me, a straight sinner. It was nothing holy about me. Right. And I was just laying in that bed. And it's like something just grabbed a hold of me. And I rolled out of the bed on the side of my bed, man, and I just gave my life to Christ. And that was 9 years ago. And so for 9 years, this is where I've been. And that was the defining moment for me, man. God put me in a place of obscurity. He used that job to get me up here away from all the noise. Because in Florida, I had a little reputation. I'm popular. I'm famous. A lot of people know me throughout the state. Right. Known for different things, cars and all kinds of stuff I was known for. And so I had a lot of noise in my ear. God took the noise away so I can hear his voice, this small, still voice. And he gripped my heart. And I've never looked back, man. My marriage is strong now. I had since been up here. Since I've been here, I had another son, my son Braden. He's 9. And man, it was a defining moment. So it wasn't necessarily a person. It was that defining moment for me.
That's powerful. Now, I always like to give advice to the younger version of you. So for a young man who did not grow up with a father figure, and I know quite a few,
right.
You have now been, you raised, 3 to 4 children. What advice do you give to that young man who's never had a father figure? What advice do you want to give to that young man who's looking, like, matter of fact, there's a young man I'm mentoring right now. He didn't have a father figure, and he's calling me every day, telling me how worn out he is because he's taking care of the baby himself. He don't have a whole lot of support. And right now, what advice do you have to give to that young man?
Well, I would say to any young man that's growing up without a father, or if he's a man now in that situation, I would tell him to be the father that he needed when he grew up. Be the man that he needed when he grew up. That's the first thing I would say. Be the man, because you know what you need. I know what I needed. I didn't get it, but I knew what I needed. I won't even say I know what I needed. I knew what I desired. I knew what I desired to have in a man and in a relationship. So be that.
Right.
And the next thing I would say is get a mentor like he had in yourself. I would find me a mentor. I would listen more than I speak. I would be a sponge. I would study everything that I can get my hands on. And I won't be so hard on my father. Because I remember one time, I was, you grow up, you kind of have a little, cold heartedness for your dad. He wasn't there. So it's like, psh. So I remember probably my second year here in Texas, I was struggling as a father, same way your mentee is. Man, I was struggling, man. I mean, seriously struggling as a father, man. Trying to hold it together, trying to hold together marriage, trying to hold together kids, a family. And I remember, I'll never forget this, man. I heard God clear as day. God said, you see how you struggling right now? I'm like, yes, it's tough, Lord. He said, just imagine your daddy at that age. He said, imagine what your daddy probably was going through at your age. So this is why you can't be hard on your father when you don't know the whole story. And ever since then, man, it changed my whole perspective about fathers not being in the lives of children. It's not an excuse, but it changed my perspective because you never know what a man is facing in silence.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Now, one more question about the life. What wore you out about the life? Because you spoke about just being tired of being. Was it the not being able to trust folk? Was it seeing the destruction that the life can cause in other areas, or was it the stress of not knowing when the popo was going to come in and take everything away? What was the element that really was the part that wore you out about that life? Because there's a lot of, and the reason why I ask
Right.
is there's people who glamorize the life. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying? There's people who always try to. Matter of fact, one of the biggest YouTube channels out there is the Mafia. Guys who got out the Mafia and now they're telling their story. What part of the life wore you out? Because I know what that feels like to be wooed by the Holy Ghost. But for me, it was a different sin. It wasn't. I wasn't in the life. I tried to get into life. I tried to
Right.
move a key when I was younger, and I was summarily rejected.
Right.
No one trusted me. They was like, "Hey, you look like you police. Get away from me."
Yeah.
So I was not. I never got into life, but I know what it's like to be worn down by sin,
That's right.
and I know what that's like. There was a family that kind of took me and my wife in, and we loved them to death. What was it that wore you out that got you to that point? Because I think young folks need to hear, like,
It's having no peace, man.
no peace.
I had no peace at all. You constantly got to stay scrapped.
Right.
Can't sleep. You got to always look out the window all night. You got to always watch your back going home. Because not only is the police after you, guys you hang with,
Right.
the jealous dudes you hang with, the jack boys, everybody eyes is on you. The girls that's trying to set you up for their cousins, their brothers, and their boyfriends. So it was just the peace, man. And then all of the above, what you say, just knowing, if you keep doing this and keep living this life, you're gonna be taken away from your kids. It got to a point, man, in the beginning where it was all about the money. Growing up poor, you just, if you money, you poor, you just want money, and by any means necessary, like Malcolm X said, that's just the mentality. And however you have to get it, one of the things we used to say in Florida is get it how you live, and it was just that mentality, just get it how I live. And it got to a point where the money wasn't the issue. I had so much money. I had reached a certain level. It wasn't even about money anymore. I had money, I had cars, women. It wasn't even about it anymore. It was about the power that it gave me. I fell in love with the power. I fell in love with the VIP treatment. I fell in love with hanging with celebrities. I fell in love with dating celebrities. I fell in love with just that whole mantra, man, of being the man. And but behind closed doors, though, I didn't have no peace. So on my outward look, jewelry, everything looked good. It looked glamorous, but it just wear you down, man. I just got wore down. I was tired. It's almost like you like 3 or 4 days, like, when you're young, you're 18, 19, you go to these weekend events and you stay up 3 nights in a row. And it's like that third night, man, your feet hurting, your head hurting, you're hungry, you're tired. That's how I felt. I felt just like the weight was on me, man. Like I had been up for 3 days and it had literally been, 20 years.
Wow.
But I felt like, I had been up for 3 days and it was just tiresome. And the first thing I can honestly say when I gave my life to Christ, man, he gave me a peace, man, that's out of this world. He gave me peace out of this world. So, yeah, the life looked glamorous, the bling bling looked glamorous, but the torment that comes with it, man. The constantly looking over your shoulders, man. The fear of, not necessarily fear, but just the thought that any day could be your last day. Because when you're in your yard, you don't know who's waiting around the corner for you. You don't know who's standing around the building because you're the man, you're the target. You got all this money, you got all this jewelry, you got all these cars, you hang with all these celebrities, you're a target. So for me, it was just the weight and peace, man. It was just no peace, man. There's no peace in it at all.
Now, when did you discover that you were dope on the mic? When did you discover that you were a great public speaker?
Man, I appreciate that compliment, man. I don't really consider myself a great public speaker. I just think I'm okay. I'm humbled by that you think that about me. Thank you so much for that. It took me a while to really believe in myself, man, because I'm gonna tell it like this. I went to ministry school. I got my ministry license. I got in school at my church. Went through 2 years of training. And the last semester is all about preaching. So you go to school for 2 years, and then the last semester, it's all about the sermon preparation, being on stage, all of that. That's all it's about. And so you have to write practice sermons. They'll give you a text, and they'll give you, they won't give you a title, but they'll give you a text. The whole class got the same text. And so you have to come back in and preach. I can't even remember how many minutes it was, man. Maybe like 3 minutes, 4 minutes. I don't know. It wasn't that much time. And you have to come in and you have to preach in front of all the elders. It's like they have like 3 or 4 elders. And you have to preach in front of the elders and get critiqued. And then your classmates critique you as well. But your classmates do anonymous critiquing. But the elders actually critique you and give you your real critique, right? Mm-hmm. So I came in, I think I preached the sermon, man. I was nervous the whole time, man. I preached I can't even remember the title of it, man. Something about being denied or something, man. I preached from my experience. And I was nervous, man, because you don't know who name they're gonna call, because everybody don't get called every night. So a couple people went and they called my name. McArthur Glaze. I was like, Lord have mercy, man. Here come this big tough guy from the street, and I just melted down in my seat like, Lord have mercy, man. I preached despised but not denied. That was my message. Despised but not denied. So I got up and preached, and when I was preached my sermon, man, my classmates, man, they was like in awe, And then when you get done preaching, you have to stand there and get critiqued by the elders. Right. And it was nothing but positivity, man. And some of the people were saying, how long you been preaching? People thought I had been preaching for years. That was my first time ever preaching. My first time ever writing a sermon and preaching a whole sermon. That was the first time I had ever attempted to do anything like that. And the highest score you could get is a 10. And I got a 9.9.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
But watch this though. But I still didn't have confidence. And I started, when I got out of school, people started calling me and started using me, but I still didn't have the confidence. And I still struggled with it. I mean, people would be, just running to the altar crying. I used to preach at a prison, man, with like 200 some men, 200 men to come to the altar after the sermon. And it used to always blow my mind because I'm like, man, what am I saying? I used to always say, what am I saying? Like, to me, I don't sound good. To me,
Right.
I'm ignorant. It sounds dumb. It sounds stupid. And I remember one day, man, back in 2018 when we was preparing to move in this house we're in now. I was at the apartment we was living in one day. I was by myself, and God began to speak to me, and He said, "You remember the second grade?" And I had in the second grade, I had a teacher named Miss Washington, and she used to always tell me. She said, "You talk too much. All you do is talk." She said, "I bet you talk in your sleep. You talk so much." She said, "You got to be from Missouri. You know, you're a Geechee." She said, "Geechees don't do nothing but eat rice and talk." She used to tell me this every day. She said, "McArthur Glaze, she used to do this. Yeah. Motor Mouth." Then she said, "You know what? That's what I'm gonna call you. Your name is Motor Mouth." So when I came to her class, she used to say, "Motor Mouth, Motor Mouth, Motor. You talking Motor Mouth?" And my name became Motor Mouth.
Wow.
I was no more McArthur Glaze. So it made me didn't want to really talk. And God showed me that that was the devil trying to shut my mouth in the second grade. And He showed me that's where the fear of speaking came from. And in 2018, man, God delivered me from that.
That's awesome.
So from 2018 to now, give me a mic, man.
That's blessed, man.
Give me a mic, bro. I'm ready for it.
That is blessed. That is blessed. Now, since you've been on this side, since you've been in ministry, has there been a mentor or someone that inspired you with their level of discipline?
Oh yeah, man. My pastor, man. Bishop Jakes. I mean, powerful man of God. The way he do things, the way he carry himself, the way he ministers, man. I mean, most of the world know him. Great man of God, man. I follow him a lot. I listen to him a lot. I watch all of his interviews, so I can learn how to interview. And outside of him, man, it was several people that God used to impact my life. Though on this side, my big brother back in Florida, Minister Greg Williams. He's a preacher at Hope Church of God, the first church I ever went to. And the pastor of that church, Bishop Bud Mickens, great man of God. A father figure, Kenneth Jackson, was a great inspiration to me, man. And here in Dallas, my boy, man, Vinshaw Dobbins, God has really used him to loosen some things in my life and some biases that I had. He's used him to challenge me on different levels. So I can appreciate those men. And then I have to throw a woman in there as well. Another friend of mine, Rita Reyes, she's an elder. If I had a woman best friend, it would be her. She has spoken some powerful things in my life, and she the one actually prayed me back in the church when I backslid the first time. You know the movie War Room, how the lady put the press, she did that for real for me. And she do it for others as well, but she prayed me back in the church. And my father figure, Ken Jackson's wife, man, Narissa Jackson, she's transitioned on now, but she was another one that was inspirational in my life as well, that prayed me back in the church. So it was a group of people that God used, man. They say it takes a village, and that was my village that really poured into my life, man, because I was so messed up, bro. You got to really remember, man, that when you're constantly being told you're ignorant, you're dumb, you're stupid, you're crazy, and you begin to believe that, you act that way. Your character is shaped by the negative words and the toxic words of those people. Sure. And all of those negative words cause you to be toxic. So everything about me was toxic. I mean, I was just toxic. I was a ticking time bomb. My attitude was quick, bad. Nobody wanted to make me mad because I'm going to snap. And then when I snap, there's no telling what I'm going to do. I was a time bomb. So God had to use different people at different stages of my life to get me to be this person that I am now. I mean, the greatest thing that I think God used, man, was failure. Failure was my greatest teacher. It was my greatest teacher, man. Failure. And I think the substitute teacher for me was pain. You know, those was the things that God used to shape me to be McArthur Glaze that I am now.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Now, let's rewind 3 years. What disciplines or advice would you give to a young person who just discovered, or not necessarily a young person, could be any person that discovers they have this gift of public speech, what advice would you give them about establishing their platform and about moving forward in that gift?
Well, what I would say is just hone your gift, man. I would tell them to read everything they can read. That's the first thing, man. You want to be well studied because when you open your mouth, everybody is listening when you open your mouth. So you want to know what you're talking about. So if you're talking about bananas, you want to be able to shred bananas apart. You want to know everything about a banana, how it's grown, where it comes from, how it's harvested. You want to know about the peelings inside of the banana. You want to know everything about that banana. Whatever you're teaching on, you want to be an expert on a topic that you open your mouth on in the field that you're in. And I would say develop your disciplines real early. Develop your disciplines, man. Whenever it's hard because people are out doing everything that they want to do, and you have to be the one that say, "I'm not going to the movies." You have to turn off the football game. I think I want to say 2017. I don't think I watched one football game, and I love football. Let me tell you, I am a football fanatic.
Amen.
When I say fanatic, from Thursday to Monday night, football.
Right.
Every game. I'll watch a MEAC game, a SWAT game. It don't matter. I just want to watch a football game. I think in 2017, I didn't watch a football game. I was committed to my craft. I was committed to studying. So you have to discipline yourself, man. You have to be relentless because you're going to make mistakes. You're going to fail. You got to be able to get back up, man, and start over. You have to be relentless. But the main thing is, man, you got to be disciplined, man. I would say build that discipline into your life early on so it won't be a struggle when the platform blow up. As far as how you develop your platform, man, just keep content out there. And I don't even do that a lot. But keep content, as much content as you can get out, just get it out. Just get the content out. Don't try to be a perfectionist, man. Just get the content out. Because if you keep trying to perfect it all the time, you'll stay in the lab and you'll never put nothing out. And you'll get better as you put content out because you'll listen to it. People will critique you. People will tell you things. And then some of the content you'll think is trash, man. You'll be amazed how people come back and say it blessed their life. So a lot of times you just put the content out. From a spiritual perspective, the anointing don't really need no gift at all. Your gift needs the anointing, but the anointing don't need the gift. So if you just anointed, you could spit some stuff out there, man, and it'll hit and do what it needs to do. Just from pure anointing. But we all know that anointing is only gonna come when you spend time with God, number one, and when you go through the crushing process, number two. So an area that most people don't want to go through. So put in the work, man. Put in the time. It's just like LeBron. We admire LeBron now, but LeBron been doing this since he was a kid. LeBron put in major work, even in the off season. LeBron putting in work. I remember a time when LeBron, I think it was Jerry Rice. They won the Super Bowl. I can't remember, did they play in Miami or somewhere? And a week after the Super Bowl, Jerry Rice went to work out. And they was like, "What you doing?" He said, "I'm preparing for the next season."
That's awesome.
See, that's discipline.
That's awesome.
You got to be willing to do what nobody else want to do if you want to be great. Eric Thomas, he said he's the greatest motivational speaker in the world. He could take that title and claim that title because of the work that he put in. So you don't have to be the best orator or the best speaker. You just got to outwork everybody.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, you're also an entrepreneur, I believe I read in the profile.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
There are various properties that make a good entrepreneur. There's marketing, there's sales, there's accounting, there's strategy, there's creativity, there's technical expertises. What do you consider your strong points and what do you consider your undeveloped areas?
My strong point as an entrepreneur, I'm a risk taker. I take major risks. I take so many risks. My wife is scared, gets scared. My partner, Anthony, up here, he gets scared. He's like, "Man, I can't do that." I am a major risk taker. I have no fear when it comes to losing or failure because I believe money is currency. And if you lose it, it's going to come back.
That's right.
So I think and I'm a visionary as well. I could see things, I can see ideas. I mean, I can create ideas easy. I can easily create ideas. I think my undeveloped area, I'm not going to say well, you said undeveloped, but my weakest area. I'll use that. My weakest area is probably I try to put too many irons in the fire at one time.
Mm.
That's probably my weakest area, because I try to put too many irons in the fire at one time sometimes, and it can be overwhelming. I got a friend in Tallahassee. He's a brand expert named Askia Jones. That's my boy, my partner, my right-hand man. And he's a brand expert. He works with big brands. And man, I probably call him 5, 6, 7, 8 times a week with different ideas.
Right.
And he's like, your brain just be spinning. So that's a weakness, because you have to fully develop one area before you can move to the next area. And sometimes I don't fully develop an area. And because of so many ideas in my head, my mind is constantly twirling. I can think of like 15 different businesses and 15 different ways to do it, like in one day.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? I have all kind of great ideas, great strategies, and I can see how to do it, how I want it, what to call it, all of that. I can write the marketing plan down. I can write it out. I can have all of this stuff. And sometimes my boy have to push back and be like, man, I think you ought to stay focused over here. So I would say that's my weak area. If I had one, that's definitely my weak area.
Now, as a high performer, how well do you sleep, especially with all those ideas in your head? Do you sleep soundly for a good 6 to 8 hours?
Man,
or do you struggle?
Man, my daughter say I have insomnia, man. I sleep. Man, I'm going to tell you something. My wife say I nap. I don't sleep. So on a typical day for me, when I get in probably about, from my first business, I get in typically about 3 to 4 o'clock. Some days a little early. I get in between 3 and 4. I come in, I go and lock in my room. I debrief for about 30 minutes to an hour. Then I go take a walk around my community and get me a good, probably 1.5 miles, 2 miles in. And then I deal with my kids. Then by that time, my wife is coming home, kind of, seeing what the family's doing. Maybe about 9:30, 10, me and my wife may get in the bed. I may doze off for maybe about probably 30 minutes.
Right.
And then I'm up to about 4 o'clock.
Wow.
And then I doze back off, and then 5 o'clock I'm up going to work.
I hear you.
That's like an every night occurrence, man. So I might sleep 2 hours a night. I might get 2 hours a night in. Every now and then it'll catch me and I'll sleep all night. But it probably take me 3 weeks. So I'm not sleeping that much. I don't read as much as I used to. But when I was an avid reader. When I read a lot, I would stay up all night reading. Literally, I would drink coffee and read all night. I probably drank about 3 cups of coffee, and I would read all night. I read everything, Bible, whatever I'm reading. Other books, all kinds of stuff, man. John Maxwell, Bishop Jakes, all kinds of people, man, just reading. So I don't do that as much as I used to, but I'm still up because I've developed that habit. So I'm just up, doing a lot of research. A lot of things are just digital now. So, I could just grab my phone on my iPad and I could just start researching some stuff. So most of the nights I'm researching, or I might be in Clubhouse listening to something positive or something like that. So I'm not sleeping as well as I should. No, that's not a good thing. I'm not. But
well,
you know what though? But you know what? I'll say this though, Tony. You know what though? I don't need that much sleep though. So I think for everybody it's different, and I think every entrepreneur need to know how much sleep they need. For somebody, it might be a full 8 hours. Another person might need 5. Another person probably can sleep off 3 or 4 hours. So everybody needs to know their own body. For me, that works for me. It might not work for somebody else.
Yeah, 6 is good for me. 6 is good.
Yeah, I can't. 6 hours of kill, but I can't sleep 6 hours.
Now, you mentioned reading. What book outside the Bible do you recommend for either public speakers or entrepreneurs?
Man, Robert Aries.
Okay.
You Are the Message. That's a good book. Robert Aries, You Are the Message. That is a great book right there. That's a good book to read. Anything John Maxwell.
Okay.
Anything John Maxwell, especially if you're speaking has to do anything to do with leadership. Sure. Anything John Maxwell. I would say Bishop T.D. Jakes. He has a book on destiny. It's a good book. The Bishop Jakes has a lot of books, man. I mean, anything on Bishop T.D. Jakes. Matter of fact, I think he has a new book out now called Drop the Mic or something like that. Sure. I haven't read it yet, but I'm definitely gonna read it. There's nothing he dropped that I won't read.
Sure.
So and he has books that's not just Bible too. He has books that's not just Bible. So anything on those guys right there that come to mind like immediately. John
Okay.
Hope Bryant.
Okay.
Yes, John Hope Bryant. That's another book. Anything on John Hope Bryant as well.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. Now, becoming disciplined, we examine discipline or organization in the following areas: spirituality, mental discipline, physical discipline, emotional intelligence, financial discipline, time management, and home and data organization. Which one of these do you consider your strong points, and which one of these is an undeveloped area or a weak area, whatever you prefer?
I would say spirituality, even though I don't like the word spirituality. That would be my strong spirituality and finances.
Okay.
Those would definitely be um my two. I would put time management in at third. My weakest one would be, I don't know.
That's okay.
Uh,
That's cool.
yeah,
That's
I don't really know, but I don't know. I don't know
that's
which
fine.
one would be my weakest.
Sure. That's
But
fine.
there's definitely a weakness there, but I don't know though. But right
Well,
now, those would be my top three as far as.
and that's the purpose of the podcast, to get you thinking about it. That's
Yeah,
the purpose. That's the
definitely.
purpose of the podcast, to make people pause and reflect. Selah.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, what can you tell us about both McArthur Glaze LLC and Rebirth Inc.?
McArthur Glaze LLC, man, is a consulting business. That's where I do my consulting. With McArthur Glaze LLC, man, I train any organizations that work with kids. I develop a training called the Y Experience. And the reason I call it the Y Experience because a lot of people judge what the kids what without knowing their why. And I don't think you can judge my what until you know my why. So, example, we see little Johnny. He's 13 years old. He comes in the detention center 2 or 3 times a year for stealing, breaking in cars, breaking in stores. And the judge just see Johnny, car thief, theft. That's all the judge see. Now, one part of that I understand because the judge caseload is big. But the other part I don't like about it is he never really understand why Johnny's doing it.
Right.
And then when you dig into Johnny's why, you find out that Johnny's father was killed in gang violence. His mother is somewhere strung out on drugs, and he's being raised by his grandmother that's on a fixed income. And so Johnny is breaking in cars and breaking in apartments or whatever stores so he can feed himself. And then he's stealing out of Walmart or he's stealing out of Foot Locker so he could get him some Nikes so he can have positive self-esteem or strong self-esteem when he go to school. Because middle schoolers can be cruel. What are those?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? What are those? So when you dig into Johnny's life, you understand that the what to the why is his situation. Same thing with anybody. It could be Kimberly. It could be Steve. It could be John. So I created that training, and also I help any youth programs develop stronger programs or develop a mentoring program. So that's McArthur Glaze LLC. Rebirth is my nonprofit. That's my baby. That's my nonprofit where I work with young boys. That's it's more like a glove when they get out of the detention centers. It's more like a glove because one of the missing parts to that whole justice system is for juveniles, they don't have nothing for them when they get out. They let 13-year-old, 14, 15, 16-year-old Johnny out, and Johnny has nowhere to go. He's going back into a broken situation. So with Rebirth, we have 27 training courses where we try to take the kids through trainings from financial literacy to anger management, which we don't call it anger, we call it be cool, to emotional intelligence, communication skills, team dynamics, teaching them how to work as a team so when they can get a job, they're not on the job trying to fight and bully everybody. And they understand when problems arise on the job that they know how to positively articulate themselves to the supervisor or positively articulate themselves to the team. Instead of just, you know what I'm saying, and grabbing a gun or grabbing a knife and want to hurt somebody. And letting them know that it's okay to express yourself and articulate yourself, what you really feel and what you think. So that's what Rebirth Birth is, man. It's a nonprofit where we mentor through life skills. I don't believe personally that true mentorship is taking a kid and shooting basketball with him all day,
Right.
or taking them to a football game. I don't think that's true mentorship. I think that's a part of it, but I don't think that's all it entails. I think if I'm gonna have an hour with you, I think true mentorship is pouring into you for that hour, making a deposit into a child's life. So when that child is old enough, he'll have something to withdraw from. That's what Rebirth is all about.
That's powerful, bro. I could see that gifting in you, man. When you talk about kids, man, you light up, man.
Yeah,
you become
man.
another person.
They're my passion, man. They're my heart. Because see, I used to be one of those broken kids. I explained my story earlier. And so I understand the mentality and the mindset of what people would call a thug. When I understand the guy that's on YouTube with all the AKs, the Dracos, the nines, the extended clips, smoking the blunts, I understand that life. I know what he's thinking in his head. I know how he feels.
Sure.
I know where he come from. I know what he's trying to say without saying it. I understand the language. So I'm automatically drawn to them. You see what I'm saying? Because if everybody just continue to look over the kids and say, those kids are wild. Oh, what this world has come to. Oh, this generation is out of control. Okay, I agree with all that, but let's roll up our sleeves. Let's take our collars off, our suit and ties off, our Brianna suits off, and let's go and get our hands dirty. Because if everybody just keeps sitting back and say, oh, these kids are wild, they're going to continue to be wild. They don't have no boundaries. We're not going to be able to save them all. But if I can get 2 or 3 or 4, and then they can go back and pour into their friends, and then he can go back and pour into his friends, I can reach 1 million kids before I die.
That's awesome, brother. That's awesome. Now I got one. I just thought about this before we close out. This is my second to last question. I know you have a heart for those who came up that hard knock life. What about the kids? A little bit like my story, where I had a mom and dad,
right?
And I still tried to get into, I still tried to get into that life, even though I had no excuse. There was no reason for me to be in that life, and I still tried to get into that life, even though I grew up in a suburban, mom and dad both in the home, how frustrated do you get, and do you still have a ministry for those kids who they're trying to get into that life, but they're not really coming from a hard knock life. They're just kind of forcing their way
to the lifestyle.
Yes.
They're just attracted to the lifestyle.
Right.
Yeah, I have a
ministry for them on that?
Yeah, I have a ministry for them as well. I reach them as well. See, because the biggest misconception is because I have a mom and father in my life that I don't have issues.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So I know many men and many young men that have parents and they have a disconnect. Because a lot of times, just because a father is in the home don't mean that he's emotionally or mentally connected to the home. Yeah. He could be a busy dad, never paying attention to his children. You see what I'm saying? He could be a workaholic because he have his own issues in his life. So I reach everybody. My net is broad. I can talk to those kids too. Because they have a story. They have things inside of them. They struggle with low self-esteem, low self-worth. You see what I'm saying? People pick on them. They're angry. They have anger issues. It could be a situation where the father's in the home, but he's abusing the mom.
Right.
You see, he could be coming from an abusive home. It could be alcoholism in the home. So you throw your net out broad, and whoever you catch, you minister to them. Amen. Whoever you catch, you help them.
Amen. That's good stuff. Well, Mr. Glaze, we can't thank you enough for coming on. You didn't have to do this. You didn't need to do this. We truly appreciate you. You have the last word. Just so you know, for our audience, it's typically 30-year-olds to around 55-year-olds who are trying to be better. They're trying to be better versions of themselves. They're trying to become disciplined. You have the last word. Do you have any closing thoughts for our audience?
Man, first of all, I would just say thank you for exposing me to your platform. You didn't have to allow me to speak on your platform, man. I'm humbled by it. That you would, look at a little kid from Belgrade living down here in Dallas you decide to bring me on your platform, man, and just share my story, just share whatever knowledge I have. I just pray and hope that it helps somebody. And I would just encourage your audience, man, to, if you don't know your purpose, seek God for your purpose. And when you know that purpose, run after it. Don't look back.
If you enjoyed McArthur Glaze half as much as we did, we encourage you to follow him on the following platforms. Becoming Disciplined looks forward to working with McArthur Glaze in the near future. Now, before you leave, don't you dare forget to click that like button, click that subscribe button so that you can get more podcasts from Becoming Disciplined.